Hello, Notre Dame fans. It's time for the other sideline. I'm joined by Kelly Quinlan, publisher of JacketsOnline.com, Georgia Tech's home on the Rivals.com network. Notre Dame is set to host Georgia Tech this weekend, 2:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC. Kelly, Georgia Tech 3-7 on the year, 2-6 in the ACC. They're done with ACC play now. They have Notre Dame and Georgia left. So a big rival and a fun trip to South Bend. Where is Georgia Tech's program right now? And is this kind of, in an odd way, like good timing for them to have these last two games?
I mean, it's interesting. I think everyone had bigger expectations for this season. Jeff Collins referred to it as the offseason program was called Win 21, right? They were supposed to win and go to a bowl game, and they ended up 1-6 in these close games in the fourth quarter and just couldn't turn the corner. A lot of it came from, they were playing Pittsburgh with Kenny Pickett in year 12, whatever he's been at Pittsburgh, and Brennan Armstrong at Virginia gets hurt like after they play them and is out, and they're a totally different team. Virginia Tech got their quarterback back for that game. They just have had bad luck with a lot of that stuff. They play Tyler Van Dyke after he's sort of turned the corner on his season and got over his freshman blues. So, yeah, they've just had this rough season. I think it's sort of free money now at this point. I think they were trying to go to a bowl, trying to salvage something, and now they sort of are just playing for each other. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle this. Playing number 6 and number 1 the last 2 weeks of the season certainly is not a recipe for more success, but
Yeah.
they've been competitive. The only game they got blown out in this year was Pittsburgh, and that was really, the starting quarterback Jeff Sims threw 2 interceptions on the first 2 drives on the I think it was 3 total plays, just real quick and dug a hole, and they just couldn't come out of that. But really, other than that, they've been in every game in the fourth quarter. Obviously, they upset North Carolina earlier this year to start their tailspin, and they're a dangerous team, but they've been really bad on defense, to be honest with you. And when the offense is okay, they can hang, and when they're not, they really struggle.
You mentioned Jeff Sims at quarterback. What's the latest on his availability for the game this weekend?
I would say I would expect Jordan Yates to start. I don't have a definitive answer yet on all of that, but Jeff just didn't look on the sidelines on Saturday like a guy that was going to be ready to play quickly. I think they're going to be careful with him at this point. What are you playing for? Why risk, a serious injury on him? And the big problem for Georgia Tech too is the offensive line's just been beat down with injuries. They played Saturday at the end of the game. They had a walk-on left guard. They had their normal left tackle and a normal right guard, and that was it. They played a true freshman at center and a COVID freshman at one of the guard spots as well, and a COVID freshman at right tackle. And they're just running out of dudes. Like they when they've had their starting offensive line, they've played well, but they've had them. I think it was 2 series in the Miami game was the last time they had them, and before that, you'd have to go back probably to maybe 3 or 4 games ago. So they just are just beat up at this point.
Brian Kelly said yesterday, or I should say Monday, during his media availability, that Jahmyr Gibbs, in his opinion, should be the ACC Offensive Player of the Year. From what I've watched, he looks like, to me, clearly the best running back Notre Dame has played this year. But you watch him all the time. What makes him such a special player?
So if he makes a cut and gets to the next level, he usually beats the guy, whoever it is, the safety or corner or whoever. And he's just runs away from people and is so dynamic. He sees the field really well.
Mm-hmm.
What's special about Jahmyr too is what's ironic about this, he leads the country in all-purpose yards, right? He's had 6 different touchdowns this year called back because of holding penalties, or like he had a kick return for a touchdown called back. He had a touchdown catch against Clemson called back. He had a long run in the pick game called back. He's had all of these touchdowns called back. He could literally have 600-700 more yards and probably 5 more touchdowns this season, if not for somewhat questionable penalties in some cases, but and a couple of just miscues. One of them on a kick return was just a guy blocked in a back, nowhere near the play, but it flagged it back and took away a 70. That might have been a 78 or 80-yard kick return. He's just dynamic. I mean, Boston College after he took the opening kickoff back for a touchdown against them. they onside kicked 3 times in a row, and then were sky kicking and squib kicking the entire game because they were scared to kick off to the guy. So, and the thing with Gibbs too is he's just as dynamic out of the backfield as a receiver as he is as a running back. He is like the definition of like an all-purpose back, and I think he's a really special player. And it's a shame that not everyone's got a chance to see what he can do this year, but he's a guy you definitely have to keep an eye on, and a guy teams have to spy for whenever he's on the field.
I want to bring up another thing Coach Brian Kelly said during Monday's presser is he said he'd give Jeff Collins an A+ for the job he's done in transitioning Georgia Tech from their option style attack and the type of kids they recruited into the more kind of modern roster that he's been trying to build. He's in year 3. What would be your assessment of how Jeff Collins has done, and how do Georgia Tech fans feel about how he's done?
So Georgia Tech fans are angry because they've won 3 games, and they're frustrated because the way Coach Collins talks. He's very positive, very much, uses the same kind of coaching cliches a lot, like elite roster, elite this, elite that, playing their hearts out, stuff like that. People are a little tired of that piece of it. But the fact is, the roster was a significant rebuild in a lot of ways. The defensive line he inherited when he got here, they had 2 guys who had played any significant football on the entire defensive line. Like, it was just a total rebuild on the lines of scrimmage. The offensive line was not great. And so from that aspect of it, it's been a tough job. And I think in terms of building the roster, I think he's done, what I would call at least a B+ job. They've recruited really well. They're really talented. They have 77 kids that are considered freshmen on the team right now, between the COVID redshirt freshmen, the true freshmen, and then guys who redshirted
before COVID.
2 years ago or whatever. Yeah. So like, there's a kid, Jordan Yates, the guy who might start at quarterback. He told me he can graduate in May, and he's still technically a freshman right now. Like, that's how weird it's been.
Wow, sounds like he takes business in the classroom. Probably got some course credits before Georgia Tech too. Good for him.
Yeah, he had a little bit of AP credit coming in, but that just kind of goes to show you, right? Like, they have, I think, 87 guys or 88 with the COVID additions to the roster, the free year seniors, and and so much of the roster is still all kids and guys who've not played a lot, and that's where it's going to take a little bit of time. It'll be real interesting to see kind of where they are next year with developing those players, because they have gotten a lot of experience this year playing kids. And you talk about Jameer. Jameer played a lot of last year. He played, I think, maybe 7 games before he got hurt at the end of the year, and then has played a full season now, and he's still technically a freshman too. So Jeff Sims, who started all of last year and this year, is still a freshman technically. Like, it's weird how that works.
Last question for me, Kelly. I was listening to Jeff Collins' post-game presser after last weekend's game against Boston College, and clearly there was a lot of focus from the Georgia Tech media on the defense, some struggles there. What's your assessment of that unit for the Yellow Jackets?
That's the real tough piece of this for Tech fans, and has been a real frustration point, I think, for Coach Collins too. They're just not good on defense. They're in the bottom 5 or 6 teams in the P5 and the FBS. They're in the top, bottom 20. Just bad defense in the secondary, a lot of mistakes, a lot of errors in tackling, a lot of just bad play all the way around. If you go back and look at the Boston College game from last week, there's like 4 plays. If they just do them correctly, guys do their assignments, they get off the field, they beat Boston College. Mm-hmm. And it was the same way against Virginia, and Virginia Tech was similar. It's just been this constant theme this year. Miami, very much so. You're not being able to get off the field when you get off the field, and what killed them in the Boston College game too is dumb penalties, right? Mm-hmm. And they had 2 key penalties there. In Miami, they had 2 key penalties that extended long 3rd and long situations out of Miami's own end zone. Things like that, just sort of bad play on defense and not playing with discipline. And that's going to be tough when you play a team like Notre Dame. And then the other thing they really struggled with against Boston College is covering a tight end. and Michael Mayer is obviously one of the elite ones in college football. So
Yeah.
that's an area I would think they're very concerned about going into this game, and a weird matchup for Georgia Tech.
Kelly, it's always great seeing you, man. For the viewers, Kelly
Good
and
to
I
see
have
you.
known one another for what 15 plus years, and
Yep.
yeah, I've been around Rivals.com a lot. So we always appreciate your time, Kelly. Everyone, hit like on this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Seek out our newsletter on BlueandGold.com. Sign up for that. It's a free way to keep up with all the content we're doing at BlueandGold.com. Kelly, again, thanks. He's the publisher of JacketsOnline.com. Excuse me, I almost ran out of breath there. The Georgia Tech home on the Rivals.com network. That's JacketsOnline.com. All right, guys, we'll see you.